If you're a senior engineer, I'm pretty sure you felt this. You get handed a huge project, they give you this title, DRI, and then all of a sudden you find yourself doing a job you absolutely did not sign up for. We're going to dig into that feeling today, and we're going to give it a name, the DRI problem.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? You're an engineer. Your whole thing is solving really complex technical problems. You build stuff. That's why you got the promotion in the first place. But then, one day, you get this new title on a brand new project. You are now the DRI. And suddenly, that job you thought you had, yeah, that's not the job you're actually doing anymore.
Tell me if this sounds familiar. You get recognized for being great at what you do, technically, so they hand you the keys to this big cross-functional feature. All of a sudden, you're not just worrying about your own back-end system anymore. No, now you're trying to coordinate like 6+ teams across iOS, Android, web, and who knows how many back-end services. You're sitting in meetings trying to guess how long some front-end work is going to take, work you've never even touched, and you're running these alignment syncs with people who all report up to completely different VPs.
And this is the real kicker. This was never in the job description. Nobody sat you down and said, hey, by the way, your main job now is going to be project management. You were hired to write code, but somehow you're spending all your time in meetings just trying to keep the train on the tracks.
So why? Why does this keep happening? Well, the answer is kind of hiding in plain sight. It's in the term DRI itself, because it turns out it has two totally different meanings, and the gap between them, that's where so many projects, and frankly, so many engineers, just completely fall apart. Okay, so on one hand, you have the definition we all know and, well, we know it, the directly responsible individual. Apple made this famous. It's all about putting one person's name on a decision so that when things go sideways, there's no finger pointing. But then, there's this other, much more powerful meaning, decision reliability infrastructure. Now, this is totally different. It's a system, a process, that's designed to make sure a decision is actually solid before you ever make someone responsible for it. Now, let's be fair. The whole directly responsible individual model gets one massive thing right. Because accountability without a named owner, it just isn't accountability. We've all been in those meetings, right? Everyone's nodding. And then 2 weeks later, absolutely nothing has happened because everyone assumed somebody else was on it. Naming a DRI, well, that's supposed to solve that problem. But here's where the whole thing just breaks down. They usually name the DRI at the end of a meeting. But what if that meeting ended with a bunch of unspoken disagreements or unresolved concerns, or everyone just had a slightly different idea of what the scope was? Well, the DRI walks out of that room with their name on a decision that the group never actually made, and now they are on the hook for a failure that was baked in from the very beginning. In this situation, this is what creates what we can call the mini-TPM problem. The engineer is now basically a technical program manager, but, without the title, without the training, and without any of the formal authority. Good luck.
See, for a decision to actually be real, for it to stick, 4 things have to happen. It's got to be stated explicitly, out loud. The owner and the next steps have to be clearly named for everyone. Any disagreement has to be dragged out into the light and dealt with. And finally, the why, the reason we're doing this, has to be written down somewhere. If you're missing even one of these, that decision is fragile. It's going to fall apart the second it gets a little bit of pressure.
And this quote just perfectly captures the new reality for our poor engineer. Someone on Reddit put it perfectly. As a DRI, your job is to coordinate, delegate, and contribute. And it is in that exact order. The actual coding, the thing you're an expert in, that's dead last on the list. This complete flip is the real source of the struggle. It's not that the engineer can't do the job. They're incredibly competent. The problem isn't the code. It's this massive, sprawling, chaotic coordination surface area they were never, ever prepared to manage. So why does this role even exist? It's not some genius organizational design. It's a bug, not a feature. And it's born from a really simple resource problem. Companies almost always have more projects than they have program managers. So the engineering DRI exists to basically soak up this coordination tax, and everyone just kind of hopes they'll figure it out. And this brings us to what I think is the most important idea in all of this. When things go wrong, our first instinct is to blame the person in charge. But what if the problem isn't the person at all? Let me just say this as clearly as I can. Most of the time, when a project led by an engineering DRI fails, it doesn't fail when people are writing code or shipping features. Nope. The failure was already locked in, right from the very beginning, in the kickoff meeting. It happened in those early syncs where the scope was a little fuzzy, where concerns got brushed under the rug, and where everyone nodding yes was really just an illusion of alignment. So the takeaway here is huge. We treat these failures like they're people problems. The DRI just wasn't up to the task, but they're not. They are structural problems, and they're caused by a completely broken process for making decisions. And the main symptom of the structural failure is something called decision churn. It's that Groundhog Day feeling you get in meetings when the same exact questions are being debated over and over and over again. It looks like your team is just misaligned or difficult, but the real cause, the invisible cause, is that the big, important decisions were never actually made in the first place. And this is where we circle all the way back to that second meaning of DRI. The solution isn't about finding a better, directly responsible individual. The real solution is to build a better decision reliability infrastructure. And when you look at them side by side, it's so clear. Naming an owner, that's just about defining the authority structure, who you yell at when things go wrong. And that can be useful, I guess. But decision reliability infrastructure, that's about something way deeper. It's about checking the quality of the coordination to make sure there's a real, solid decision to own in the first place. One gives you cleaner escalations. The other means you have way less to escalate to begin with. So what does this actually look like day to day? It just means you start instrumenting your meetings. It's about asking those same 4 simple questions every single time. Was the decision actually said out loud? Is ownership clear for every single team involved? Did we actually deal with disagreement? And did we write down why we're doing this? When you have those mechanics in place, the DRI can finally do their job. So I'll just leave you with this one question. The next time you see a DRI who's struggling, or a project that's just spiraling in circles, don't ask if they're the right person for the job. Ask yourself this instead. Did the decision that person is supposed to own, did it ever actually truly get made?